Start trading today at pukatrade.com.
Hey guys, welcome back to Vintage Super League. I am joined by Chris Pakula. I'm Eric Froelich, and yeah, we just got to see a really riveting match. I think I played great, so I give myself all the credit in the world. Had nothing to do with my opening hand, and yeah.
Well, the first game I had a big decision because I basically said I cannot keep this hand if he's on any kind of shops deck, and I just decided my hand was too good. Too good to throw back on in case you were just on a different deck. So
yeah, I had a kind of a weird hand where I was 50-50 on you playing Storm or Shops. You had already stated that those are the only two playable decks in the format, which is of course completely true. And so it was one or the other. My opening hand was borderline hot garbage against Shops. Like I had a Mox, but my lands were Ghost Quarter, Bizarre, and so I had like a sphere. No, I don't even know if I had a sphere. I had a null rod and maybe like one other lock piece, but no way to accelerate, no workshop, no ancient tomb, only the one Mox, no Lotus, no Soul Ring. And so if you're on something like Storm, there's a reasonable chance I'm just dead, and if I'm not, maybe I have to just hope that null rod's going to be good enough, or that one of the lock pieces is going to be good enough. And if you're Shops, if I keep that hand, I'm banking on you going like turn one workshop sphere, me getting the Ghost Quarter you, and hoping that you just kept a land light hand, and I can lock you out that way, potentially with Bizarre, discarding dead cards. So I really wasn't sure about whether to actually keep this hand. I think it was really close. Certainly not a great hand by any stretch, but you had the best opening hand you could have in game 2, which should be a turn 1 kill every time, except you got, I imagine, incredibly unlucky with what you ended up doing with 5 mana floating on turn 1.
Well, I mean, my only options off the Time Twister were to I had Dark Petition.
Yeah.
I was 1 mana short. I drew Bargain and Necropotence. I had sacked the Lotus for blue. I had sacked the Blindside Diamond for blue, so that I would have blue and black mana floating.
Mm-hmm.
But then I couldn't cast Necropotence with it. And I had exactly the mana to Dark Petition, but of course the only spell in my graveyard is Time Twister. So I don't have Spell Mastery. Yeah. So my only option, I thought, was to get Necro into play, because if I can't just say go. That's insane, right?
Getting Necro into play, though, is very close to a sure win. I think that your odds of having just won the game on turn 1 without me ever getting a turn are really high. Like,
yeah, I've played.
I don't know what it is.
Basically zero Storm, and that's why the first opener was so hard for me. I wasn't sure. It felt like my hand was going to be so good against any sort of non-shops deck. I didn't have any. I think I didn't have blue mana, but I didn't have. Maybe I just didn't have any. No, I think I had a Mox Jet. I don't know. It was just Library and like a Duress and a Dark Ritual. I had a bunch of stuff, but I thought it was keepable. Yeah, game 2. I also apparently. I had an easier kill in game 2 as well, but I just thought I was 1 spell short, but apparently I was not supposed to short. I like the way I did it. More exciting.
And it worked out, and luckily I had a workshop in game 3 with all the good cards, so we didn't get to actually play Magic, which is what my deck is designed to do, so I'm happy to have that happen. We will continue talking about our match once we get down to the next match, because Rich Shay and Scott-Vargas are ready for our second round. Guys, welcome back to Week 4 Vintage Super League, Season 4. The bottom of the screen, we have Rich Shay. He's going to play Hangerback Shops. And on the top, Scott-Vargas, who is playing a very similar deck to what I'm playing. Stacks on stacks on stacks. We played a really heavily metagamed version of Shops.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are playing something very similar to what I would have played. I was not going to put Bizarre Baghdad in my deck, but my Shops deck was going back to 4... I guess I was literally building 4 null rod shops.
Right.
And
I
then
don't
decided.
think Luis is playing as many null rods as I am. I think he has 1 or 2. I don't know his final list. I wasn't sure he was actually going to play the shops list, but we did talk beforehand. We both played against Chris, and so we had that overlap, so we wanted a deck that we thought, workshops or a storm type deck. We wanted a deck that was going to be good against that. And then for the rest of the matchups, we thought that Rich Shay was very, very likely to be on Chops. So again, a deck that's extremely good against Chops would be nice. And then Luis is playing against Bob, who's probably going to play a dirtily blue deck, and whatever you do, it just is what it is. And then I'm playing against Randy, who I thought would probably play Belcher or Storm. So I end up going heavier on things like No Rod. We completely cut cards like Tangle Wire, just because they aren't really good against Chops or Storm or Belcher. So those just came out entirely. I believe Luis actually might have played a couple copies because he is playing against Bob. But yeah, it's similar to the deck that Luis played in the first trimester, but we don't have any copies of Uber Mask. There is Bazaar of Baghdad because it's quite nice with Ensnaring Bridge, and it's nice when you have, you might have too many dead cards. You play too many Null Rods in your deck, smokestacks that you don't need, multiple Crucibles, plus it's just good with Crucible in general, and of course with Ensnaring Bridge, that Bazaar is just actually a good Magic card, even without a combo, even without playing Dredge. And so I ended up playing a couple copies, and I think Luis played a couple copies as well. So we see Rich with pretty much the best opening you can have. Turn 1, Triskelion.
Yeah, turn 1 Triskelion, but I mean, that's definitely not the best opening. Maybe in the Shop's Mirror, it's the best opening you can have.
Pretty good. It means he had a turn 1 workshop, which is pretty close to the best opening you can have anyway. And when you can follow that up with something big, I don't know exactly what Luis had as big spells. Again, we expected to face at least 1 or 2 Shops decks each. And so I ended up playing main deck Spine of Ishsaw, and I think Luis did as well. And I played main deck Wormcoil Engine, which of course not a great combo with Ensnaring Bridge, although decent with something like Smokestack. And I'm not sure exactly what Luis went with his top end, but
how many Ensnaring Bridges are in your deck?
I have 3 main, 1 in the sideboard.
Oh, so that's a whole another.
And I think Luis also was talking about playing 3 main, 1 in the sideboard.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I was going to go a more traditional Shops build without all these funky cards that you guys have.
Yeah, well, I was building a traditional Shops deck as well until I'm like, oh wait, I actually get to know who I'm playing against. Let's see what it is. Like I wanted to play Shops.
Right, I love how you thought you were very likely to play
in.
against Shops, so you played Shops. I think that sums up the format pretty well.
I played heavily metagame Shops with less Thorns. I have less Thorns main deck. I only have the 2 Thorns, and I have 8 cards I actively want to bring in against Shops in the sideboard. Like I have no copies of cards like Grafdigger's Cage. There's none.
Right.
So I don't have anything for Dredge.
The thing is, the shop-on-shop sideboard cards are not that exciting. That's always.
I agree.
It's just the cards you're taking out are so bad, but there's like no great card to bring in. This is interesting. So, what do you think about the way Rich played this? Is getting in a Jitty hit this turn better than having a huge hangerback walker?
What do you mean? Oh, you want? It's a good question.
Yeah, because I don't know. He could have just attacked with a Triskelion, and
yeah, this ends up working out pretty poorly against the fact that Luis has Phyrexian Revoker, which obviously has to name Jitte. Rich has no cards in hand. He's got a Mana Crypt in play, so he's actually racing his own Hangerback Walker kind of right now, just because he has no cards. Of course, everything he draws he can cast, but wait, did he only use 1 of the counters?
I guess he's leaving one on, I don't know, I guess just in case. I guess
it's good if he draws Triskelion, but then he would just be able to turn on the counters anyway. Interesting.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I think so. He had 10 mana. He could have just played a 5/5 hangerback instead of using the Jitty that turn. I kind of think that's better.
Yeah, it's very reasonable that would be better. It actually would have worked out much better for him just because Luis is likely to just play Revoker on hangerback at that point. And then you just get to play Jitte and the game is effective. Well, yeah, I guess he can't because Triskelion would still be in play. The Revoker is just a bad card on that board.
Well, what do you mean? He could still...
Well, I'm saying
the hangerback would be 5/5.
If he played Revoker, he would actually just have to name Triskelion.
With both Triskelions in play?
Well, if he doesn't, the Triskelion is just going to shoot him, and he's like...
Right. Oh, yeah, you're right. He has to name Triskelion. And then you Jitty next turn, and it's insane. because you have a 5/5 hanger back to equip.
No, yeah, I'm saying it's much better for Rich. Like Luis doesn't
Yeah.
have a good line. That was my point.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I would have made the big hanger back and held the jitty back for a surprise.
So Luis is just bricking here. That gives Rich some time to recover from being hell-bent. He doesn't necessarily need to draw much. This Hangerback Walker is going to continue to grow, get huge. He is still racing his own mana crypt. He won that flip, though. Luis just doesn't have a lot of action. He's drawing the worst cards possible.
But yeah, he doesn't have action that does anything in this matchup.
Nope. Well, especially not when your opponent already has 12 mana in play.
That's a good draw. Well, he can just attack with the hanger back now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luis can't lose his Revoker. He can't trade it. The Jitte will just end the game. So Luis is going to need to have a big draw here. He does have a bunch of ensnaring bridges in his deck. Wow, Smokestack is not great against a huge Hangerback Walker. Now if he drops bridge, that's to get it down.
All right, well, this was a...
Yeah, this just ends the game on the spot.
Yeah, this is...
Not literally, but there are no outs.
I can't imagine there's an out.
Luis is playing a Shops deck to make sure he never loses to Shops. So he, of course, goes down game 1 to turn 1 Triskelion.
Yeah, I don't...
Huge Hangerback, and then just a bunch of good cards while Luis drew all the bricks.
I don't think I believe in the existence of a Shops deck that never loses to Shops.
Well, yeah, that's true. Nothing possibly never lose to Shops.
With no card drawing and no deck manipulation, it's hard to have any matchup where it relies on your opening hands, where you have lots of overlapping cards.
The thing is that there are legitimate trumps. I mean, Crucible is really good, and Snaring Bridge, if your opponent can't kill it, they can't kill you. You will lose eventually to them having the better cards, like Spine of Ishsa and Snaring Bridge. That's just very real. And so, because the Shops deck is so slow, you can have an incredibly good matchup against them when the lock pieces don't do anything against you. Like
that is another reason why I really like metamorph versions of Shops, because whatever they try to trump you with, you can basically just undo it for the most part.
So Luis's hand is, well, something. He's got Workshop. He's got Leyline.
So he's brought in Leyline of the Void to fight Crucible, because that's all his deck carry. Like you were saying, that's one of the trumps in the matchup. So each of them have Leylines in their sideboard, but they have different Leylines. Is that right?
I did not play Leyline of the Void in my deck. I played 2 copies of Relic of Progenitus.
No, but I saw Leyline of Sanctity in one of their sideboards.
Yeah. I mean, I had Leyline of Sanctity in my deck. I think Luis does. I think Rich does. It's becoming just kind of a common thing with Storm being so good that it's certainly not game over. You have Chain of Vapor, but being able to stop Hurkyl's Recall is just a really good thing to be able to do, just giving that extra time to set up. So Rich is mulliganing to 4, and no, he mulliganed to 5 and kept a no-lander, but got there. Turn 1 Lodestone is a pretty nice start.
This is a weird game already. Wow. So does he just Tangle Wire here? No, I guess Smokestack really messes him up if he does that. He can't Tangle Wire. He just has to cast Revoker. He can always sack the Tangle Wire to the Smokestack, though.
You would still have to tap, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's got to. He's just got to cast a creature. I would cast the Jitty as well, and then he's gonna have to make a decision on what to sack.
Yeah, I mean, Luis kept a land heavy hand. He's gonna need to draw action.
What would you name here?
Trying to think of what might matter. Like, I don't think Rich knows necessarily what Luis is even playing. Revoker doesn't really hit anything except for mana sources.
You could just name Triskelion. He has his own in his
But the
hand.
Triskelions are
He has-
all in his hand and his deck.
But he has no mana, and he saw. Oh no, he didn't see a Triskelion on his head. I'm sorry, he saw a Metamorph. So he
Yeah,
should
that was
just
a meta.
name. He should just name some sort of mana.
Forge.
Forge Master.
Yeah, that's reasonable. You don't know what you're up against.
I don't know if that is reasonable because a Forge Master comes out, it's just going to block Lodestone Golem.
True. But the thing is, do you care? Like, what is Black Lotus going to put into play?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to come up with. Oh boy. So I guess it's easy sack of the Jitte here. Rich really needs to draw land. Or a 2 casting cost permanent.
Oh, that was a bad one. So, he can't attack with his own Revoker right now. The trade would leave him losing his Lodestone next turn.
Yeah.
So Luis has the option to chump. He's going to pass on that. Smokestack on the stack.
Is he going to take it to 2?
Sacrifice more. What's up?
Is he going to take it to 2?
He's going to sack the ley line.
Good choice.
I think he clicks it to 2. It's too, like, the risk is definitely severe. Draws Bazaar of Baghdad.
Rich's hand is so bad for a post-smokestack game with smokestack.
Yeah, it really is. Even if he draws Workshop, you know, it's the best draw. You're looking at nothing that actually impacts the game.
Yeah, not great.
But Luis is going to lose a lot of permanents here. To kill this Lodestone Golem, he's going to lose 4 permanents.
Yeah.
It's not a small amount. Alright, well, at least that can be stacked to Smokestack. I think you just run it out there.
Why did he tick the smokestack up?
Wait, what?
He ticked it up to 3.
Oh, that had to have been a misclick.
I just...
Like, what?
That was a nice little win for Rich. So he's going to sack Smokestack, Null Rod, Urborg, maybe? Does he want Bazaar here?
Worse than Urborg. I guess if you
you're right. You're right, of course.
You just throw Smokestack down there. He threatens to tick it up to 1. So Rich has the decision of actually playing the factory or not, knowing that Luis can make him sacrifice it if he wants. Luis looking for Crucible.
You have to play it, because if you draw another factory, Luis has to take the smokestack up. Because if you draw another factory, you just win. So.
Oh, I didn't even realize Luis was already down to 3 here.
Yeah. So he can't afford to not take it up. So if he still wins if he draws a factory. That would be...
Ghost Quarter's going to stop that.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was a Ghost Quarter in play. Oh, he just played it. All right. That's a bummer. That would have been a sick win.
Well, at the very least, he could have buried Ruined and gotten back Phyrexian Revoker. There was no way it could actually threaten lethal. Right? Luis is going to go down.
No, he wouldn't have... If he didn't draw land, he wouldn't have had the mana to bury Ruin, right? Oh, no, he could tap Bazaar Baghdad for mana.
Urborg turns Bazaar into an actual land.
You're right. There's a lot going on in this game.
There's a lot of cards you don't see as much of.
Yeah.
Considering using the buried on it, just getting a card in hand is kind of nice when you have Bazaar in play. You know, it kind of gives you access to, you get to draw your card and then you can use Bazaar and basically get to play the best of your top 4 cards if you want.
Yes, having a card in your hand does make
Oh,
Bizarre Baghdad do
that is
something.
not the option that Luis was interested in since he let Bizarre go to the graveyard.
This is a weird one.
Alright, so Ghost Quarter is going to take down Mishra's Factory. Luis might consider leaving this No Rod in play.
Oh
He
man,
does have Workshop advantage, which is no
Rich.
small
Rich is the
thing.
kind of person who could have one basic land in his sideboard, but I doubt it. Oh man, that would have been sweet.
Come on. Yeah, he already brought in the Caracas.
I just want
But
weird
he
things.
also has a Plains. Which basic land would it be?
I don't know. A planes for I don't know. I was
Just good
I
with
was considering using Caracas to cast Porcelain Legionnaire.
Yeah, that's not the least reasonable. And if he has Leyline Snake in his sideboard too, you're playing against a Storm deck with Path to Exile. Just go get.
I really like Porcelain Legionnaire. I feel like in a lot of these games it would just attack for 20 by now.
Oh, Porcelain Legionnaire is actually really good in this matchup.
Yeah. No, I was going to play a 4 Null Rod, 4 Porcelain Legionnaire deck. Maybe I will next time.
Smokestack down. Oh, there's Ensnaring Bridge.
Now it's officially the most boring game possible now. I guess Rich is gonna make us watch what Luis can do. Is that Tanglewire?
Yeah, he just emptied his hand to not risk losing to drawing cards he couldn't cast and losing to Factory. I mean, he's at 1 life. Rich hasn't found a
Yeah.
mana source since though. The Milrod is pretty good at this point. Luis has killed a lot of lands. Still just looking for Crucible. Crucible's the big one. This one can't actually be cast. Luis at
Yeah,
one
he's gonna
life
have to
cannot play
I have to
Metamorph.
draw Tolarian Academy to cast that.
Or let a No-Rod die and draw Black Lotus or Mox Sapphire. Strip Mine's interesting because that takes down a lot of Luis's mana. This might get him out from
Yes.
under a bridge potentially too. Oh wow, he's gonna expose his Strip Mine. So Luis can actually get rid of that.
Did he forget about Null Rod there, or do you think he was just
Yeah, he had to have. Interestingly enough, like if he's able to just get this hanger back down, Hangerback's gonna win the game because oh no, he still has Mistress Factory that can block. But 1/1 creatures are gonna be able to attack because Luis cannot play Metamorph. Because he went down to 1 instead of staying
well?
at
But the factory blocks, and then Rich gets a 1/1 flyer, right?
Yeah.
So Luis is gonna have to draw. In fact, oh no, Ravager can't do anything. Bizarre Baghdad. He's gonna have to draw Bizarre Baghdad.
There's Bizarre Baghdad.
Which it's funny that he needed to draw a card that he just threw in the dumpster earlier of his own.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
You are not incorrect.
he got himself in a position where one of his must draw cards was a card he had voluntarily discarded earlier in the game.
Oh, he's gonna have to play this Black Lotus. Or die. I guess he could Bizarre it away.
Can Rich so now Rich has to draw Strip Mine for Bizarre Baghdad?
I hope Luis has a stop on combat. Oh, he can block with Mistress Factory. Okay, so Luis wanted to get the extra card off Bizarre. This is actually a good play. So that he gets an extra look at a card, and the 1/1 Thopter won't be able to attack him because he'll go down to 0 cards either way. Of course, he found complete air. I assume he's going to play the Trinisphere on this board? No, he wants Revoker.
So Rich needs to draw Strip Mine.
Well, Rich needs...
Followed by Luis drawing
play. Like, I don't really like Luis's play there because he does have more Metamorphs in his deck. He could just die to that. And so by leaving that Hangerback Walker on the ground, well, Rich has found the workshop, and he has found Crucible Overworld before Luis could.
So is Rich just gonna? Well, no, there's no guarantees here. Anything could happen at this point. So So if he just plays both Tangle Wires, what happens? Does he have a strip mine in his yard? Does Rich? Yeah, he does. He has a strip mine. So
Yeah, I think Rich is a pretty big favorite to win this game. Luis would
he
actually
didn't
like to
kill.
kill
He
this
didn't kill
bridge
the
now.
Bazaar.
What's up?
I guess. Ah,
Getting
man.
of workshop first is reasonable.
Yeah, that's
Not
reasonable.
under pressure to have to win anytime soon. This actually eliminates. Well, Luis could just draw a smokestack, which would have been a great draw. He actually wants to lose his ensnaring bridge, so Wormcoil can attack. But if he draws it, he just dies. I
So
guess Bazaar will make him discard
Rich
it.
just plays Tangle Wire here, right? Yeah. Okay. This is actually an interesting game.
Yep, can't cast the Lodestone though. Finally finds Crucible and he can't play it.
So
So
Rich
this
is gonna strip mine the Bazaar Baghdad, and
doesn't
then
even need to. Tangle Wire will tap it before the
oh,
just.
he should shouldn't he do it anyway?
Well,
Just
yeah.
just
I
I
guess
mean,
the land is good.
so Rich wins, right? So I guess Luis can just draw a land.
Could draw a land, but Rich is still going to win. I think. Eventually, Rich. I mean, Rich is going to strip all the lands. It's just there's no way out of this.
Wow, what a
This is a
game!
workshop to start. So that maybe
This has been such a bizarre game. This is also a game where Luis had a bunch of. Well, wait, oh man, that was crazy. I feel like we had. It's funny because you didn't even realize Luis was at 3 for so long. It just
No, I
totally
completely
changes.
forgot about all that lodestone damage.
Yeah, because he didn't. He refused to chump with the revoker. He never chumped with the revoker. He took the full 15, um, which I feel like I don't know if that was correct or not because it's so hard with smokestack. You have to really figure out what his options were. But I feel like
I mean, he got punished pretty bad from I assume misclicking up to 3 on that smokestack didn't help,
yes,
and just I mean his draws were abysmal at that point. I mean, Rich was able to find both Workshop and Crucible before Luis could find one of his 3 or actually his 4 Crucibles, I believe, or
yeah,
Action, and he had Bazaar in play to help him find it. So that was definitely unlucky at that point, although not hugely unlucky because he was at such a low life total. There were a lot of bad things to find, and of course, that Bazaar off the top ended up being pretty huge when he had the Metamorph he couldn't even play.
yeah. I guess I don't see the point. I have to go back and I'd have to go back and watch. I thought I was expecting a chump block with the revoker.
Yeah, it was definitely on the table. It was a weird game of Magic.
It was a
The second
very
one was pretty cool. The first one, yeah, that was an interesting game too. Actually, I mean, Rich's hand was amazing. You know, he got to play Triskelion turn 1, and then it wasn't even like off a Lotus, so he still got to play a 3/3 Hangerback Walker and had 4 mana left over to play Jitte and equip it. But he sacrificed a lot of his board position. Luis had a lot of cards and a lot of time to find ways to kind of stabilize or get back in the game. But you know, it was Rich that found the big spells first before Luis could really do much. Couldn't find an ensnaring bridge, and then in game 2, he just couldn't find the ensnaring bridge early enough, and then just took too much damage. An ensnaring bridge at any point earlier on that game in the lodestone doesn't do anything. The smokestack could just sit comfortably at 1 and just easily take over the game, but it just wasn't the case. He had to commit too much to the board. It meant that Bazaar was not really on. He had to use it to just as a discard 1 as opposed to an actual draw engine, and it just didn't work out.
yeah. I mean, it showed kind of. I guess goes back to what I said. It's hard to have any shop stack be a huge favorite against other shop stack because you just can't guarantee what you're going to draw.
Yeah, I mean, if you know that your opponent's going to draw Workshop and their good cards, it's probably going to be a tough fight. Like, you know, he lost the roll in game 1, and Luis drew the 4 dead spheres, and Rich drew none. So that's obviously a huge advantage. You know, you talk about not being able to search your deck. You can't really get card advantage. So if you're the one who's drawing the dead cards, it's going to be a lot tougher to win. You certainly can, but it is a lot harder. And game 2 was a real game. Rich mulligan to 5. I think he found the land he needed on turn 1. You know, he needed an Ancient Tomb or a Workshop. I think he kept a no-lander with a Mana Crypt.
Yeah.
And, you know, he got the Lodestone Golem into play, and Luis didn't have the immediate answer. Looked like Luis was maybe going to stabilize and lock the game up, but Rich found Workshop and Crucible for Luis, and he took it.
Yeah, I mean,
It was a good match.
I was pretty blown away by that second game. It's definitely something we have not seen before. We have not seen a game play out that way in VSL, I don't think. So that was cool.
Yeah, we've definitely seen some drawn-out Workshop games, especially you and I playing Workshop, where we had the game where, I guess you needed to draw like anything that did anything at any point for like 8 turns, and I was discarding on 0 lands.
I think I need to draw one of my. Well, we had a game where I
any
needed to
man
draw one
land.
of my 2-mana lands, and I just never did.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. They were long.
So definitely had some interesting game with Shop. So match 3, we had Steve Menendian last week find a pretty exciting win with Doomsday in the last round to get himself out of the basement, and he is facing Kai Bude, who Hall of Famer, 0-3 start, new decks, hopefully have some cool stuff coming up, and yeah, these two guys will try to get back into the hunt and get out of that potential relegation to the play-in. You know, getting down to 0-4, that's a tough spot to be in, so I know Kai is going to really want this one. Steve, you know, the champion of Season 1, not going to want to start off 1-3 either, so we'll see what happens. Stay tuned, Vintage Super League.